Hi there. Welcome back to another episode of the Energetically Efficient Show. I'm Kristin Rowell, and I'm so happy that you are here. I'm coming at you today with a little bit of a shorter episode because I just want to talk a little bit about hydration and electrolytes. I'm going to do a deeper dive on this topic, but I thought it would be good to create sort of an intro episode in this because I have received some questions about, Kristin, how much water should I drink? What kind of water should I drink? And then what's the up with electrolytes? And I think these are such excellent questions. So I thought we could do a shorter episode to just introduce this topic. Now, the first thing I would say is I cannot get over how dehydrated we are as a population. I am horrified at the amount of ounces of water I see from some of my clients when they hire me and write on their intake forms how much water they drink in a day in terms of ounces. I mean, you guys, I have some clients who say they're drinking about 8 ounces of water a day. And if they have hired me because they want to lose fat and gain muscle, which is one of the primary reasons clients reach out to me, I'm like, okay, well, you know what? You're never going to do it if that's all the water you're consuming. It's really, really, really important, especially if you want to lose body fat and gain lean muscle tissue, that you are drinking water and that you're specifically drinking water with electrolytes. So why is that? Well, one of the reasons that we think we are hungry when we're like, oh, I need to eat something, I'm so hungry, is that we're actually thirsty. I read a statistic somewhere one time, and I wish I could find this source. I should actually look this up and put it under the video. But I read a statistic that said 75% of the time we think we're hungry, we're actually thirsty. And I was like, what? 75% of the time? That is crazy. But I will tell you that I have done some personal experiments with this where if I feel hungry and I'm like, wait a second, I've eaten recently, there's no reason I should be hungry, I'll drink like half of my water bottle, specifically with electrolytes in it, wait 15 minutes, and my hunger pangs are gone. I'm not kidding. A lot of times what our body is doing, because remember, our body is very intelligent, so it is looking for nutrition. And one of the key nutrients that our bodies need, one of the primary things that our bodies need to function, are something called minerals. And if you didn't know this, electrolytes are minerals. So when we hear this fancy word electrolytes, and there's all these different brands on the markets of electrolytes, really what we're talking about is minerals. We're specifically talking about macro minerals. And your macro minerals are what I refer to as the I-ums. Okay? So those are calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium. I think I got all the I-ums: calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium. And then of course it's phosphorus and chloride. So those are your macro minerals. We have a lot of micro minerals. Those are things like chromium and manganese and iron and copper and selenium. There's all sorts of micro minerals as well, but your macro minerals are the ones that you typically find in any of your variety brands of electrolytes. Now, one of the sponsors of this podcast and who I love and I've recommended for years is Redmond Re-Lyte electrolytes. And I love them so much because they have the best flavors, in my opinion, of any salt on the market. But more importantly, in their electrolytes, they only use Redmond's real salt. And the reason that matters to me, not only have I toured their facility and seen how their salt is made, meaning that it comes from and is mined from thousands of feet under the earth. Their facility is absolutely beautiful. And it's so spiritual there. I just love it. I hosted a retreat there several years ago, and it was very, very magical. What's important to me about the fact that they're only using Redmond's real salt from these salt mines in Utah in the making of their electrolytes is that we now know, and this is just so horribly, tragically sad to me, we now know that salt that comes from the sea, a lot of different sea salts have been tested, and that microplastics are found in sea salt. Because, spoiler alert, I don't know if you knew this, and it's horrifying to hear, there are still countries on this earth that dump their garbage into the ocean. This is real. And so we have a huge problem with microplastics in our oceans and our seas. And it makes me so sad, but it's affecting the salt that comes from the sea. You don't have that issue when you use salt that's mined from thousands of feet under the earth in Utah. And that's where Redmond's real salt comes from. So those are the electrolytes I recommend. You can go to the Redmond's website. You can use the code GOLDEN15, and that will give you 15% off your order. And you can get a variety of things there. It's not just electrolytes. They have Redmond's real salt, which I use in copious amounts every single day. One of my favorite salts is their organic seasoned salt. I always call it the healthy Lowry's. I don't know if you were like me and you grew up using Lowry's seasoned salt. I did. And then they have a steak seasoning that I absolutely love. For those of you who like taco seasoning flavor, they have a taco seasoning. They also have almost like a barbecue seasoning that has a little bit of stevia in it, which is interesting because it's a little bit sweet. I like that one as well. But there's a variety of seasonings on their website. And then I also, because I was touring their facility, I brought back a number of big salt rocks when I was in Utah. So I have them strewn about my home. And you can just like pick one up and lick one. So you could buy a bag of their salt crystals. And I keep one, for example, by my desk. And if I'm ever feeling hungry and I am still in the middle of getting a bunch of work done, I'll pick up the salt rock and I'll literally just lick it because it's giving me electrolytes. Like that's what it is. That's what salt is from the earth. And here's another fun fact about that. I could share that rock of salt with you. You could also lick it and we wouldn't pass any germs in between us because those salt crystals are antibacterial, antimicrobial, and antiviral. So we could share the salt rock all day long and not pass germs between us, which I just think is so freaking cool. Okay, back to hydration with these electrolytes. So I recommend Redmond. So what I do every morning just to hydrate my body in the morning, I want you to think about this before I say that actually. When you wake up in the morning, you are your most dehydrated you will ever be in 24 hours as long as you hydrate yourself once you wake up. And the reason for that is you've been sleeping all night. You haven't consumed water since whenever it was before you went to bed. So, and if you're like me and you also mouth tape at night, which I recommend that you do, may do an episode on that soon, you have had your mouth closed literally all night. No water got in it. So you're very dehydrated when you wake up. So the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is I do one of these. So this is 24 ounces. It's a hydro flask. I have the titanium version because it's very light. That's why I like it because I carry it around with me all the time. And I don't want to have the excuse or the complaint that my water bottle's annoyingly heavy. I just didn't want to bring it with me. And nope. I always have it with me. Titanium, very light, even when it's filled with water. Fits perfectly in my cup holder, which is why I recommend the 24 ounce. So there's no excuses about I didn't want to bring it in my car. It's annoying. It's too big. I've heard all the excuses you can imagine in doing the work that I do. So I take all those out away from you. So get the HydroFast 24 ounce. I'll put a link below this video so that you have that link for yourself to order it. I very much recommend that particular bottle. It's stainless steel. It comes with a couple little brushes where you can clean it. It's awesome. So then I put the juice of one lemon, and I do the juice of one lemon in my water every single morning for 3 reasons. Number 1, lemon is a natural detoxifier. So I want to start my morning out detoxifying my body already. So I put that in my water. Number 2, lemon stimulates your lymph. And if you don't take affirmative steps to stimulate your lymph is interstitial fluid that's separate from your blood that is just going to sit there like in your body. It's just going to sit there unless you do something to stimulate it. And drinking the juice of one lemon in your water in the morning is going to stimulate your lymph, okay? That's part of the reason. I would probably also say that this is in my second category, would I? Yes. That's part of the reason that I do lemon because it's so good for my skin. And part of the reason it's good for my skin is it's stimulating my lymph and it's creating detox. So detox, lymph/skin. And then the third reason I use lemon in my water every morning is that lemon is very alkalinizing in our body. So it's alkaline, whereas especially if we're someone who's trying to lose fat and gain muscle and we're trending towards a more low carb lifestyle, we most likely are eating a little bit more acidic foods. So just in terms of our pH balance in the body, I like to make sure I'm having a lot of alkalinity in the morning with my lemon and not so much acidity. And even though a lemon would seem like it's acidic, because if you get in a cut, you're going to scream because it's going to hurt, it turns alkaline when it goes into the body, which is kind of a cool fun fact about lemon. Okay, so I'm going to do the juice of one lemon in this with 1 scoop of Redmond's Re-Lyte electrolytes in the morning. And I should also say that is when I'm going to also use my scoop of Kion creatine. Now, I've done a whole other episode about creatine. I think that's coming out after the release of this episode. So I'm doing a deep dive on creatine so you can really learn all about it. So once that episode comes out, you can learn all about creatine. I've got a discount code for you. In fact, I'll put that under this episode as well so that you can get that creatine if that's interesting to you. But creatine, there's research around the fact that creatine and electrolytes, creatine is going to be more efficacious in the body if you're consuming it with electrolytes. So that's why, even though I wasn't always using my creatine in my first water bottle in the morning, I've changed to start doing that upon reflecting on this research so that I'm making sure my creatine and my electrolytes are paired together so that they work synergistically to give me the most bang for the buck of both of those supplements. Okay. What else do I want to tell you about hydration electrolytes in this just sort of intro episode about hydration? Well, how much do I have in a day? Okay. So depending on where I'm at, I'm typically anywhere between 130 and 140. I've been as much as 143 pounds. So I typically hover around 135 to 140. Let's say that. And for me, you would think that it's like, okay, well then I would divide that by 2. So let's say if you divide 140 by 2, that's 70, right? Is that right? 70? Yeah. And that's how many ounces of water I should have. That's what we've always been told. Take half of your body weight, divide it by 2, and that's what you've always been told. No, that's wrong. Okay. And the reason is that's like the bare minimum. That is like the minimum I would want you to have. So for me, I'm going to have at least 4 of these in a day, usually 5. So I'm going to have 125 ounces of water. Let's just round this up to 25. I'm going to have at least 125 ounces of water. So I'm having almost 1 ounce of water per pound of my body weight. Now, before you're like, Kristin, that sounds excessive, I want to give you a few scientific reasons that this may make sense for you too. Number 1, I'm doing a lot of those bottles of water with electrolytes. So I'm not overhydrating myself where I'm flushing out my minerals. I'm actually putting minerals back into my water by using electrolytes. Number 2, I tend to sweat a lot because I work out so much. So when I'm on the treadmill in the morning, sprinting, and I'm sweating and sweating and sweating, and I go through one of these bottles while I'm on the treadmill, when I get home, I'm drinking another bottle with some vitamins and minerals in it, or maybe some additional electrolytes, because I've lost so much of my water in my body and my electrolytes through my sweat. We lose a tremendous amount of electrolytes through our sweat. So I'm also having it because of that. A third reason that I would want to make sure I'm drinking a lot of water, and why that may be a recommendation that you want to consider as well, is right now I'm on coffee. Okay. My relationship with coffee, you guys, is it's just, it's like we break up, we get back together. We break up, we get back together. It's like the most toxic relationship I've ever been in, but I wouldn't even call it toxic because I don't know if you saw this, but Dr. Rhonda Patrick, who I love, just came out with an episode all about caffeine and coffee and how she's like touting all of the benefits of it. So of course I did a deep dive into it right away because I thought, oh good, I need some more excuses and reasons why I like to be overly caffeinated, which is terrible. But I'm telling you this because coffee does leach electrolytes from our cells, and it also acts as a diuretic. So we're flushing out a lot of our hydration when we're drinking coffee. So here, if you're drinking coffee while you're also drinking this water, you actually need to put in more water and more electrolytes because you're flushing out a lot of that water and electrolytes through the diuretic of coffee, and because coffee is leaching electrolytes out of your cells. It's just a fact. I wish it wasn't the case. I do think coffee still has benefits from us, but I always give it up multiple times a year every time I do my cleanse because we don't have coffee on my cleanse. Okay. So that would be the third reason that I drink so much. The fourth reason I drink so much is because I consume a well-formulated low-carbohydrate lifestyle. And guess what, guys? If you eat more carbs, you're going to retain more water. I want you to think about what the word carbs is. Okay, think about it with me. Carbohydrate. Hydrate. What does hydrate mean? Water. All carbohydrates are molecules of carbon attached to molecules of water. Have you ever, let's all think back to college days, high school, whenever, maybe it was in later adult life, where you like ate a pizza, fell asleep, woke up, and you're like, oh my God, why do I look like this? Why do I have all these bags under my eyes? Why is my face so inflamed? Why do I have all this inflammation? It's because you're like a salt lick because you ate a pizza before you went to bed and you stuffed your face with all that carbohydrate. And so after you consume all that carbohydrate, you bloat up like a balloon because you're retaining all this water. So if you eat like me or like my clients do, you are going to flush a lot of that water out of your system because you're not sucking onto it like a sponge because you're not eating so many carbohydrates. One of the first things my clients tell me in the first week of our work together is they're like, oh my God, Kristin, I'm dropping pounds. Like I can't get over it. And all of this inflammation I had in my body is gone. My joints don't hurt. I'm like, yes, because we're reducing the inflammation because so much of the way you were eating before you hired me was causing massive inflammation in your body because you were just eating too many carbs. You thought you were eating healthy, but you were eating so much carbohydrate that you had a lot of inflammation. Okay. Especially this is true if the carbohydrates you're consuming are more processed carbohydrates like pizza crust or crackers or chips or nachos or like any of the garden variety carbs that lots of people consume before they go on a weight loss journey. Okay. So I just went through a lot of the reasons that you may want to consume as much water as I do. I require my clients to consume at least 4 bottles of this. Some of my clients, if it's a littler woman and she's shorter, I may say just 3, but most of them have to consume at least 4 of these a day. And some of them 5, like I do. It just depends on their activity level and other things I'm doing with them. But the other thing that you will notice if you start consuming that much water is you will eat less, especially if you're adding electrolytes to your water, because like I told you in the beginning, you are often reaching for food because you're trying to get the minerals that are in the electrolytes that you're putting in the water. And the most fast delivery mechanism, the best absorption and the way to do it is not just to salt your food, it's to put the salt in your water. It's to put electrolytes in your water because your cells are going to absorb the electrolytes much more quickly that way, which is amazing. Okay, so remember, if you want to try these amazing electrolytes, you can go to the Redmond website, and I'll put the link below this video, and you can use the code GOLDEN15. The other thing I would tell for all you parents, because I know a lot of parents are paying attention to this, you can get kids electrolytes, okay? One of the things that my sister told me when I started to have the kids drink Redmond's Re-Lyte is they're like, it's too salty. Okay, it's too salty. So Redmond's came out with a kids version, which has less of the minerals in it. The scooper is a little smaller, but they've got great flavors like grape and pink lemonade. And I bought them even for myself because I like to try different flavors. And sometimes I want to have a little bit of flavor in my water, but I've already done a lot of electrolytes in the day and I might do just less electrolytes in that particular bottle for whatever reason. So I thought that was really fun too. Some people will ask me, and I'll just wrap up with this. They'll say, okay, Kristin, how many electrolytes is too much? And here's what I want you to think about. So in a scoop of Redmond's Re-Lyte electrolytes, there are 810 milligrams of sodium. Okay. There's 810. The minimum amount of sodium that I want you to consume in a day is 3,500 milligrams of sodium. Okay. Now, if you're eating a diet of lots of processed packaged foods, it's not that hard to get to that number. But if you're eating all real food, and then you're also doing real food that's low carbohydrate, it's real hard to get to that number. So 4 of those scoops of Redmond's Re-Lyte would only be 3,200, 3,300. You're not even at your minimum yet. So I say you can do 4 scoops, you can do 5 scoops, especially if you're eating a lot of real food. And then you can also salt your food on top of it because that's just the minimum amount that I want you to have to make sure we're optimizing your health. You guys, you need electrolytes for every time you contract your muscles, for every single movement that you do with your legs, for walking the dogs. All of that requires electrolytes. Your body has an electrical signaling processes through it, and we need electrolytes to give it that electrical charge. So we have a natural salt sensor in our body that'll be like, oh, it's too salty. Have you ever done that? You've eaten something that's too salty and you're like, oh, I can't. I always say, I wish we had that with sugar. We don't. Now, there are some things that people are like, that's actually too sweet, I can't eat it. But for the most part, lots of us could just down more and more and more sugar to our heart's content because we're just getting that big dopamine hit and we're like, give me more. The same is not true for salt. You actually will be like, I've had enough. So the good news is it's really hard to overdo sodium. And I'm going to preview this. We'll talk about this in a future episode. But what the smartest doctors on the planet know that if a patient presents with high blood pressure, they increase the amount of salt that they're consuming. They don't decrease it. And I'm going to leave you with that cliffhanger because we will do an episode on that in the future. When I learned that, I was like, what? If you have high blood pressure, you should have more salt, not less. Do your research on it. None of this is medical advice, of course, but I have listened to podcasts with the smartest doctors on the planet explain the mechanism of action of this. And so I'll get into that with you in a future episode because I find that fascinating. We knew about the DASH diet in the 80s and 90s, and it's garbage. So lower sodium is not going to help you if you have high blood pressure. Do not be afraid of salt. Have your heart's content of Redmond's Real Salt, which is what I recommend. And I will see you on the next episode. Thanks so much for being here. Bye.